This public hearing of the Fairfield Community School District Board of Directors. It's Monday, May 20th, 6:36. And can I get a roll call?
Mark Porter.
Here.
Ty Ward.
Here.
Christy Kessel.
Here.
Megan Dowd Robbins.
Here.
Mark Thornton.
Here.
Deborah Williamson.
Here.
Dave Eastburn.
Here. All right. At this time, anyone may speak to the board in support of or against any portion of the 2024-25 proposed school calendar. Written comments also will be considered if received prior to the closing of the public hearing. Do we have anybody here for the calendar? All right, seeing none. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? All right. Now we'll move into the regular meeting. The regular monthly meeting of the Board of Directors of Fairfield Community School District is to be held at 6:30 p.m. on the third Monday of each month. The meeting is open to the public and the public is encouraged to attend. Time is provided in the meeting for public input. The mission of the Fairfield Community School District Board of Directors is One Fairfield, where relationships foster growth, protect learners, unlock individual potential, serve every student every day. Can I get a roll call?
Mark Porter.
Here.
Ty Ward.
Here.
Christy Kessel.
Here.
Megan Dowd Robbins.
Here.
Mark Thornton. Deborah Williamson.
Here.
Dave Eastburn.
Here. Perfect. Do we have any perfections to the agenda?
We are good to go.
All right. Then we will move into the consent agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
We need to approve the
We need
agenda
to approve
first.
the
Oh, I need to approve the agenda. My bad, thank you.
Motion
Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All right. Deborah and Dave, any discussion?
Does pulling out something from the consent agenda part of this agenda? Or is it?
I would do it during the motion to approve the consent
In the
agenda.
consent, yep.
Sounds good.
All right. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. All right, now do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Megan and Mark. And discussion.
I'd like to make a motion to remove item 3.10 and have a separate discussion vote pertaining to the CKLA quote grade 5.
All right.
Second.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right. Discussion. Discussion on the amendment.
So I think a lot of us received emails about this quote and would just like to get a little bit more information on kind of the thought process on this and see kind of what the plan is pertaining to this.
All right. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. So now there's an amended consent agenda. Do I have discussion on that? Hearing none. All in favor of the amended consent agenda with item 3.10 pulled out, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. All right, do we go directly into that pulled out thing then?
I think we do.
Yes, you can.
All right. Do I hear a motion to approve the CKLA quote grade 5 that was pulled out of the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Dave and Deborah, and discussion.
I'll start this. So basically, I think a lot of the board members just received a lot of questions and concerns about switching to this curriculum at grade 5, and I think just a few of the board members would just like to just hear a little bit more discussion on it, because I think right now we've adapted this curriculum at Washington School, but we have not adapted to it at the other schools, and just kind of figure out the long-term game plan and what the plan is there, I guess. So.
Definitely. So last year, right about this time, the district concluded what really amounted to almost a 2-year curriculum review in K-5 ELA. Over that 2-year process, multiple resources were reviewed, as well as the review of current programming, which is typical to the curriculum review cycle. That process includes beginning at comprehensively looking at multiple data points over several years to look for patterns, to really evaluate, is the current programming having the impact that we expect or would want it to have. Through that process, there were mixed feelings on individual resources as well as current programming, which I would say is very common. Anytime we go through any type of curriculum review, everybody has a favorite, everybody has aspects of different programming that they like or don't like. And so through that process, CKLA, which is Core Knowledge Language Arts, and you might also hear it referred to as Amplify, because Amplify is the publisher, was approved as a new resource in the district. At that time, Washington jumped at the opportunity to implement the comprehensive programming, and Pence, because that would have 2-4, and the middle school, which would have the 5th grade component, elected to stay what I would call status quo with the programming that they were accustomed to using. And that was for a range of reasons at that time. Some of it in those different buildings was related to staffing as well as instructional support, the experience of our principals, our instructional coaches, the longevity or the experience of our teachers in various positions that were teaching ELA. Now, obviously in elementary, the majority of our teachers have a hand in supporting English language arts, reading and writing. It's fundamental in elementary. So we had one building that went forward with implementation, and so this year with Washington, they have utilized Amplify, the curriculum first and foremost, but also the support that accompanies that. So that would include professional development as well as some coaching. They've visited other districts and buildings to see what the schedule looks like, to see how districts who have been using those resources for longer have adjusted or adapted over time. As the school year this year has rolled around, there are always staffing changes. We have teachers moving grade levels, we have teachers moving buildings, and so the opportunity was there for 5th grade, who will be welcoming, now that the consent agenda has passed, 2 new 5th grade teachers, and those 2 5th grade teachers will primarily teach ELA. And so with that conversation, and that's just happening right now in real time, the middle school principals, we're also reflecting on how do we best support the teachers that are moving into our system? How do these incoming teachers come in and balance everything that's on a new teacher's plate? Some will be, one is new to teaching, 1st or 2nd year teaching, and one is yet to be hired. And so what do we have as far as instructional support to onboard new English teachers and to provide a comprehensive and consistent program for our students first and foremost. So with that opportunity, Mrs. Martin said, yes, I would like to have this resource that's been district approved as an approved curriculum available to our incoming 5th grade teachers, as well as, you'll see on the quote, the professional development to support both the implementation and the ongoing coaching, so that those teachers have the instructional support of experts in the field of curriculum around ELA in 5th grade. So that's really what led to the recommendation happening in the timing of it, showing up today, as well as kind of the context for why 5th grade now, and potentially why not in some other grades. So we had that conversation at Pence as well, like is now the time to continue to step that comprehensive programming in so that students are experiencing a consistent transition from, doesn't matter which teacher you have, doesn't matter which grade level you're in, that you have this consistent programming. And the feedback at Pence was similar to where it was a year ago, that the majority of the teachers are returning and that making that adjustment at this stage of the game is more than they felt like they could manage. And so it's really the fine line that we're always trying to walk in pretty much every decision that we make. Where do we have consistency and flexibility? Where is cohesion and autonomy? And so it really is a very fine line that almost every decision we are aiming for, and that's what's brought us really to today with this programming request from our middle school principal to support incoming teachers and being able to hit the ground running. So having some programming that allows them more time to build relationships, establish routines, focus on providing meaningful and timely feedback to students to chart their growth and be responsive to the needs that they have.
So, I mean, eventually is the plan to switch all K through 8 to this curriculum to have that consistency, or what is the plan, I guess, long term?
I would say there was, again, that mixed feelings on that across the district. I certainly have my own take on the comprehensive nature of programming. I think over time, this is a much bigger aspect of programming in the district, and it's not uncommon that districts, especially as you get more into secondary, have a lot of teacher-created curriculum, a lot of teacher-created programming. When I entered education, it was like that was the expectation. If you used a textbook, I felt early in my teaching like don't use textbooks because people don't believe textbooks have what needs to be happening day in and day out. So I as a new teacher, taught 8th grade science, and it was like, well, here are some other people who have taught science before, and collaborate with them, and if they want to share their stuff with you, you can, maybe borrow from them, or good luck. That's really hard to come into as teachers. Teachers aren't trained in curriculum development and program. There are certainly teachers that have wonderful, amazing skills to do that sort of work, but that's not every teacher across the board. And so how do we transition? How do we set our teachers up to be successful? And more importantly, how do we set our students up to have a consistent experience regardless of the teacher, regardless of the grade level? So personally, I do really value a comprehensive resource as the foundation. And then that's where that autonomy comes in over time to learn that resource and adapt it to meet the needs of the kids that are in front of you in class each day. And so to answer your question, exactly what that looks like, as we all know, I won't be here. So to say what that looks like 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, but there certainly is value in consistency and cohesion as the foundation. And with the amount of staff that we have coming in and out, we've had somebody move from kindergarten to 4th grade right now. Just passing through the consent agenda. We'll have teachers that move from social studies to science, or from 1st grade to 3rd grade routinely. And so how do we build a foundation that allows those teachers to, hit the ground running, and again, with students and their experience at the as the foundation.
Do you have any concerns? And I understand the new teachers coming in and just learning the new stuff as they go. Do you have any concerns in going from Washington to a different curriculum at Pence, then back to the other curriculum for 5th, and then back to something else for the rest of middle school?
So right now, with this year being year 1 of implementation, it would be this year's current kindergartners, this year's current 1st graders. And so if you're at Pence right now, you have not experienced the core knowledge language arts. What that might look like years down the road is really hard to say. So I think that we've had that already happening. If you rewind a year ago, each building had kind of a separate program. And so there has always been this aspect, and there will continue to be this aspect of transitioning from 1st grade to 2nd grade, 4th grade to 5th grade, 8th grade to 9th grade. That's something that we focus routinely on. We build transition meetings, have those conversations like to best equip students to make those transitions. So I think it's something to be mindful of, watchful of. It is the way kind of things have been, so it's not hugely alarming, but I think that's a strong piece of evidence for we do this in math, K-8, we're all aligned to the resource IM. I'm not going to remember what that is, but it'll come back to me here in a second. My mind wasn't in math, illustrative math. And so there's value there. We worked hard last year with board approval to implement Leader in Me, K-12. And so, different students at different grade levels have a different experience with that. And so how does that work as they transition from one building to the next? It is something that we have to be intentional about.
Is that something typical of a lot of districts do? I mean, because it just seems like to me, when you have a curriculum, you just either do it at least K through 8 or you don't. Is that typical of districts to have a different hodgepodge of different grade levels and doing that?
I think you'll find a range of programming when you think about 300 plus schools in Iowa alone. The challenge is that not every resource is designed or is even available for every grade level. So I would agree. IM Math is a great example. It is actually available K-12. And so when that review comes around again, I think there's a strong argument that if our kindergarten through 8th grade has been experiencing success with this programming, there's a strong argument that yes, that should continue in high school. With Amplify, they do have a K-5 offering. They have a 6-8 program. They don't offer currently a high school program. There's nuance also to every grade level. And so over time, I think that's just how things evolve. That there are certainly programs that are geared towards K2 when you're learning to read on the phonics, on the phonemic awareness, like learning to read versus what you might experience in 3-5, 6-8, 9-12. There are nuanced differences there. So it's not always possible. I would say where high quality resources are available to support K-8 or K-12, that should definitely be taken into consideration.
So Stephanie, can you address some of the concerns that we've received? Lack of training, time to align standards, seemed rushed. Your implementation seemed rushed. No presence of an instructional coach at the middle school. Could you address those things? It doesn't seem like 2 years would be rushed, but
I think probably what that's speaking to is that the decision to put this on the agenda and to move forward with planning for implementation in the fall was a decision that was made here in the last couple of weeks because of staffing changes. So again, the context for not having K-5 move into CKLA last year was that 2 buildings said, we've got veteran staff returning that have been using this. We feel comfortable, confident in this. We have evidence that we have seen students experience growth in these programs. And we feel better about, supporting our teachers and continuing to adapt what they're doing. With 2 new people moving in, and that was literally just passed in the consent agenda to confirm that would happen. That raised the question, what's the best way to support new teachers coming into ELA? Some could have ELA background. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're brand new to teaching, but how do we build systems in the district to bring people into it to be able to, meet the needs of students right out of the gate? And that implementation is something that does take time. It is a comprehensive program that is very thorough, and it will take time. That's why having that dedicated professional development that you see in the quote, that's a reflection of not having an instructional coach. There's not an instructional coach at the middle school. And so where are we going to contract those services where we don't have them? And I think that's another aspect of decisions that will continue to be made around the board table and within the district as the dynamics of where we get our services from are changing across the state.
So this was an opportunity to implement this with 2 new instructors coming into the 5th grade and not have to reinvent the wheel with them in the future.
Correct.
Is that, am I understanding that correctly?
Yep. At a high level. Yep.
Eventually, we will be implementing this in all the grades up to.
Well,
if we're going to get consistency. But-
I would advocate for that.
Okay.
How often are these curriculums reviewed, and changed within the
Yep.
district?
So that's on a 6-year cycle, and that is a board-approved cycle. So you can see that in, I'm not sure what the policy is, but it is outlined. And so we have over time made some changes to that. That's really why it took 2 years on the review. The district wasn't able to reach consensus the year before, and so it came before the board. Can we move the review of ELA, K-5 ELA to the following year and continue this conversation? And Over time, that evolves also because of the way curriculums are designed and developed. Some are K-12, like next year you'll see K-12 science on review, and some, like ELA is the biggest purchase that we make across the district, math and ELA, and so those happen to be split out like elementary versus secondary, and stagger that because they are expensive to support.
I have one more question.
Yep.
So, part of the implementation issue is, if we could have stabilized our staff, we could have made these decisions a little bit more systematic. Am I understanding that correctly? Part of this is staffing and those things?
It does. I mean, the staffing plays a key part of the decision coming before you, or the request coming before you tonight. But I would say, again, this is just high-level feedback from not, right now we're talking about K-5 ELA, but systematically across the district, I think there is a real opportunity for more aligned programming, not just in ELA, but across the board, because of those, just some of the dynamics that change in education over time. I think that's being really setting us up when we think about our culture, our morale, the onboarding process of new teachers, that we have these district approved resources, and when we bring people into the system, it's our responsibility to train them how to use that, to teach them how to use that. And there is a very much an art to teaching as well, and so where does that then leave room to adapt and have that autonomy and be responsive to the students that are sitting in front of you, because those students aren't the same from class period to class period or 1 year to the next. And I know our teachers work very hard to meet those needs and to be responsive, and there's still room for that, even when we have laid out district-aligned curriculum or programming. It's more than just a resource; it's comprehensive programming.
What is our current contract for Washington's?
So it was a 6-year initial contract based off of that review cycle. And that's why you see this contract for 5 years, so that fifth grade would stay on track with that same review cycle. That would put, I don't know what that year would be. So it would be 6 years from last year is when, and I will say this, the other thing on that review cycle is that that's not just something that you wait and do after 6 years. There are components of that should be happening each year where, okay, your 1 year in implementation, what does success look like with implementation? What does year 2 look like, year 3 look like? How are we adjusting, reflecting, being responsive? And then what does year 4, 5, and 6 look like as you gear up to really review comprehensively, is this resource having the impact that we thought it would have, that we intended for it to have? What adjustments may need to be made?
So I agree with the idea that we do need some sort of consistency throughout the district in terms of, our curriculum. I guess my concerns, number one, is how has the implementation gone at Washington School? I know that we have seen a lot of turnover at that school this year. And I don't know if it's true or not, but I have heard rumblings that, it's been very difficult for the teachers there to implement this new system. So I'm questioning the stress maybe that is accompanying this program. And I know that Pence and the middle school have done a lot of collaboration in how they're working together currently. So to throw in, you've got the elementary and then Pence is staying the same, and then you're going to change at the middle school level, I guess to me does not make sense as far as the path that it would make sense to follow. And, I think we saw that most of the fifth grade teachers are pretty adamantly not on board. So I'm concerned that, if you don't have the teacher buy-in and the implementation is already difficult, that this is going to be an effective use of our school dollars.
I was anticipating questions on how the implementation at Washington was going. There'd be 10 teachers, 5 kindergarten teachers, 5 first grade teachers, and I think if each one of them, I don't want to speak for them, they provided some feedback, but I think you'd see the range on that continuum of I really don't like this at all the way to I would never want to do anything different, and I don't think that's unique. I think that if you were to talk to Mount Pleasant schools, or if you were to talk to Ottumwa schools, or if you were to talk to Cedar Falls, or that list of, almost 80 districts across the state that use this particular resource and have been adopting that over the last 3 to 5 years, you'd hear all of that and then some, and that implementation is longer than a 1-year process. It is a comprehensive, very much involved curriculum. It takes and separates skills and knowledge, and we won't get into the nitty gritty of what a comprehensive program, but it is comprehensive. I think a challenge that I have with the feedback from teachers who aren't directly teaching that resource, that's challenging, because at what point do I support the instructional leader of the building saying, I would like this resource to be available to my teachers. The district has approved this resource for use, and other places in the district, other buildings in the district, other grade levels in the district are accessing that. I want my teachers that are coming in, potentially new, all of that we've already discussed, to have access to this resource too. I feel like I want to support that as well, which is why the recommendation is here. And I won't read all of the feedback, but the feedback that I did get, was both from family as well as from the teachers on specifics around segmenting scores on FAST can be attributed to chunking, blending, and segmenting in the program. It really incorporated chaining exercises, segmenting activities. Felt that students showed growth in this area. I'm seeing students further along with their reading skills than I have before at this time. A family reported a parent has seen the difference in their children's reading, which has been awesome. They've seen an increase in confidence, willingness to read, and reading fluency among their kids. Their student who's enrolled at Washington currently has made more growth than their sibling last year. This is one family. Although both met many goals, the student experiencing CKLA has made growth in a shorter amount of time than their sibling. Those are what was offered to me. I didn't get any of the feedback not in support, but I would be very forthcoming to say I know that would be there too. And there's the potential that every family that shared successes, there could be families that would experience something different. I would say that's very anecdotal. One feedback here. There is probably that on the other side. And I guess what I would agree with, and I think I've kind of said this already, I would advocate that it should be that K-5. And there are reasons why 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade did not move that direction last year, and why they're continuing, at Pence to say next year's just not quite the right time either. But how do we continue to make forward progress? And that's, again, that just fine line of waiting for everybody to be ready, but then also pushing people to try new things as well. And so that's a very fine line that we try to hit as we try to support continued growth and improvement in the district as well.
I guess for me, just given the amount of change that's happening, in our district with Zach going to be coming in, I just don't know why we would choose to move forward with this without really knowing what his vision is for creating the consistent programming. So to spend this money knowing that he could maybe want to change it, I don't know why we wouldn't wait to let him make.
When do we have
that
to make a decision on this by?
Well, I mean, the challenge would be the longer that you wait, the less likely you are to get that in-person support at the beginning of this school year. And so right now what we would look to do would be to line up those trainers to come in the pre-service day, to be here with those teachers, to walk them through and to really coach them on doing that. The risk would be if you waited till I think the board meeting in July is in the 2nd, 3rd week. That's a really tight turnaround to line that up just about a month later.
Because really, what I would love to see is to see our new superintendent sit down with this administrative staff and then just that and bring us a 5-year plan. Say, hey, this is our plan for either the implementation of how we're going to move forward. Because just doing random grades here and there, switching, that's why we're getting a lot of complaints about it, and that's why we have been for a year now.
I think a 5-year plan on implementation for anything is probably something that takes longer than what would be, realistic for the start of the school year. I would go back to emphasizing that the reason the request is before you at this time is because it is an opportune time, because you're going to hear the exact that feedback too. Well, I started in the district and you expected me to do it this way, and now everybody's had time to come around to the fact that we need to have comprehensive and aligned curriculum, and now I spent all this time in my first year, and that's part of what helped. That you'll hear teachers say that around the burnout, the frustration, where it's like, yeah, we just get going on this, and now we're changing to this, and now we're changing to this. So at the end of the day, what's really before you is that we had the instructional leader of a building say, I want the teachers that are incoming to have access to the resources that the district approved, that are available to other teachers and other grade levels, and that's why it's before you today. And that way they can have that feedback and know one way or another which way they need to start planning, because it's not just new 5th grade teachers that building will be welcoming. They have other new staff that they're going to have to onboard and support, and not every content area has resources like this available. So when you think about onboarding vocal or band or those other programs where there's only one teacher and there's not somebody to collaborate with, that's time intensive too. And so there's 2 principals, and how do we support them in supporting their teachers to provide a foundation of a high quality vetted resource.
Is CKLA the dominant one in Iowa?
I don't have the data on what every district is using.
Because you gave us that list of almost 80 districts that are either implemented or adopting it currently.
And so I know I could throw out names of others that are, considered high quality. And I would imagine that there would be, a third using CKLA. I know EL Education was one that we reviewed and is, again, equally as comprehensive and intensive. And so I would imagine that there's a lot of districts that use that as well. Then you're also going to have districts like ours where over time we've, taken what we used in some buildings and adapted that to look a little different. We've taken resources from a variety of different places to create our own multifaceted programming. So I can't. It is obviously a very widely used program with almost 80 of 320 districts.
Yeah.
Either having implemented or scheduled to implement next year. Some of those districts being some of the very large districts. When you start thinking about the number of students in the state of Iowa who are experiencing this programming, when you talk about Davenport schools, Ankeny schools, Cedar Falls schools, some of those larger ones that would wrap up a lot of students in their systems.
And a lot of the schools around us too. I see Mount Pleasant, Waco, us, Muscatine, Ottumwa, we're all on that list.
Yep, and that's been the great part for the collaboration. So Washington has been able to go observe and collaborate with teachers at Mount Pleasant. They visited a school in Ottumwa. And so different schools at various stages in that implementation process is also helpful to say, well, what did you learn in year 1? What did you learn in year 2? What are ways that, students are responding to the instruction in the program?
Is this a budgeted amount or is this extra?
We have a budget for curriculum every year, so it falls within the
It
curriculum.
falls within the curriculum budget, so this is not an extraordinary.
Correct.
Okay.
And with one teacher yet to be hired, and this being kind of widely adopted, so it's possible we hire someone with some CKLA experience that comes
Definitely.
in.
So if we, for many of the reasons that have been, concerns that have been brought up, don't approve this, what options are there to support the new teachers? How could we create it? Just if we decide, we're not sure it's the best thing for students, the peer teachers are, not on board with it, but, we want to make sure that we get these new teachers prepared. Is there the opportunity to use the coach from Pence to come in and support? Until we can get to a time when, like, yes, we're gonna implement this with a big chunk of grades, and it makes more sense to get everybody, you know, in the same headspace on it. So yeah, I'm just wondering what kind of support, if this doesn't go through, we would provide.
Definitely. I think there'd be you could use that argument either way. So obviously the staff person that will be moving to instructional coach at Pence has 5th grade ELA experience. That person will also be learning a new system at Pence as well and supporting those teachers. I think that's a very and comprehensive job, very involved as well. Is there room for that person to support? Of course. You know, both of our middle school principals have English backgrounds. We will have a new 6th grade ELA teacher. We'll also have a new 7th grade, new to the position 7th grade ELA teacher. So I think that makes it somewhat challenging as far as that more English department at the middle school, really supporting programming in that first year because there will be a lot of new faces. On the flip side, you also have an instructional coach at Washington who's now supported implementation in kindergarten and 1st grade, has taken those teachers through the first year of implementation and may be able to provide support in the other direction as well. So I think, you know, a range of things are possible. If it was something that did not, you know, again, I just at the end of the day want to support the principal who's asked for the, you know, high quality resource that's available to other teachers. And so
If we don't pay for this curriculum, is that a savings because we're using existing curriculum?
I mean, I would say yes and no. So there's other expenses that go to supporting the others. Like overall, would the net be less? I would say probably, especially because you're not going to have the PD aspect that you're paying for to implement this and to implement it well, and what that looks like ongoing. So it's hard to quantify exactly what that savings would be. But
And it's a one-time savings, not a recurring savings, because it's a 5-year cycle, so it's a one-time. Yeah, it just doesn't fall.
This is a cost annually that we pay, or just a one-time?
this is
5
up front
years?
for 5 years. Yep. And so that gets us
So
a savings as well.
I'd just like to make sure that we all understand too, that when we went through our budgeting process, we made some significant cuts at the superintendent level. We don't have a curriculum director, and we made that intentionally. And we've asked now to drive those decisions down to the building level and to hold our principals responsible for those things. And it's a decentralized model. And we can't ask them to make decisions and then sit and nitpick their decision after they've want to make.
I don't see this as nitpicking though. We're
Well,
getting feedback
you're
from
right.
the people who are actually going to be
I-
implementing these.
You're right, that was a
And-
bad term. I take that back.
To
I strike my words. Strike my
ignore
words.
their concerns, I think would be, you know, a mistake. One of my biggest issues is just the lack of communication within the building, and you know, they were obviously involved and consulted as a part of, you know, this curriculum review, yet their feedback isn't being heard or listened to as far as how they feel this specific curriculum and whether they think it's going to work well for them. So again, I just don't think the time has been taken to do it in a way that makes the most sense and keeps our staff happy and keeps everybody on the same page and moving forward versus, you know, fighting amongst each other.
I think you're incorrect, because they wouldn't be the ones implementing it. They would just be the other teachers at the 5th grade level. But I also think like we're pushing so hard with all these changes going on of communication and collaboration. And so from my side, it's like, you know, we can encourage Carly to go talk to her staff and just at least get some of that communication and collaboration together. And then like if you get that communication and collaboration, they bring it back next month, like, hey, it's all well, everybody knows what's going on, we at least have a plan. Doesn't sound like it's maybe close for next month on this one, or you get another quote. But if it's not going to be implemented until next year, obviously you have some resources from the PD side of, if we're not at the top of the list, we may not get it till later on. But just thinking that extra communication and collaboration, at least to get some insight from that same level as well as throughout the middle school ELA program. But that's my own opinion.
So to Dave's point, kind of following the steps of the decision-making process, it's curriculum review that happens last year, principal, curriculum director, and superintendent kind of, and then it bubbles up to us. And every step of that is recommending CKLA.
Correct.
Okay.
And I want to just say, that was a bad term. I want to take that back. That was a bad term. But I still feel strongly that you can't hold the building principal responsible without giving them the commensurate authority. And they have an opportunity with 2 incoming teachers. And we're moving to implement this over the whole district. And I think that it's reasonable to take advantage of that opportunity with 2 new teachers. And also, it's reasonable not to have the inconsistency, take that inconsistency for a temporary thing in like a building like Pence with teachers who are currently in the district. And I'm not sure that Carly didn't do the communication.
We
But-
heard from the teachers that there was no communication.
Well,
so
that's
who it should be to, that's up for discussion.
that's true. That's true. I'm going to default with the principal, and because we're asking them to implement curriculum, to be responsible for their buildings, and they have to have the authority.
I also just wanted to read something, Zach is here, but he did send an email earlier to me, and I don't think he'd mind if I quote his email. But he did say that what we need is to have systemic K-8 research-backed approach to all things reading and writing. What I have gathered is that all 3 buildings all do different things, and that's not best practice. Our core instruction needs to be connected to the standards consistent across all classrooms, ensuring a guaranteed and viable experience for all of our kids. That's just a piece of an email that he sent to me, just if we're wondering kind of what Zach's input is here.
I absolutely agree with that, but it seems like by approving that at one grade level and not doing it systematically throughout the whole system, that's kind of contradictory to what we're accomplishing there, right? I mean,
I think this is one step in the system. Like systematic is like a process. And
but
this is a
if you're going to systematically do it, wouldn't you start out in kindergarten and work your way up? So I mean, why wouldn't there be an 8-year process of implementing this, starting at kindergarten, going every step of the way
Well,
up?
if I'm being asked the question and we can reflect on how we got to this place, a large part of not ripping that Band-Aid off and going K-5 last year was the same kind of feedback. And so if what the board is waiting for is for consensus from all teachers to say, yes, I'm on board with this and this is my number one choice, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. So we see this over and over and over again, and it is the fine line of how do we push people to try new things. How do we support our principals who are responsible for carrying out your vision of improving instruction, improving learning? If this is how they're saying they want to do it, they're accountable to that too. And I think we've had that conversation the same way that I would be. If the board says we want improved learning and this is the way we want to do it, then I appreciated some of the feedback I got on, well, it's not really my role as a board member to say whether it's a good curriculum or a bad curriculum. That's not governance. And so I think that comprehensively, I could make a very strong argument, if this is what you're saying, that it should be amended to say we need to implement 2-5 next year. I would be 100% behind that.
Any more discussion? Seeing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay.
Nay.
Motion does not carry. All right.
Mr. President, can we have a roll call?
Sure. Can we do a roll call vote?
Mark Porter.
Nay.
Ty Ward,
Aye.
Christy Kessel,
Nay.
Megan L. Robbins,
Nay.
Mark Thornton,
Nay.
Deborah Williamson,
Aye.
Dave Eastburn.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, moving on. Superintendent update. Dr.
Okay.
Mishler.
Thank you. The last couple weeks have been some of the most fun weeks of the school year. So I would start again by thanking those of you who were able to participate in graduation yesterday. That is the culmination of what we're all here to do. And although it was a warm one up on the stage, the breeze was nice. I commend Ty for a very humorous and
He didn't write it.
intentional. I will also say it's very hard in the context of that microphone. So it was a great day.
It's really hard. That microphone, it's hearing yourself echo in your ear is impossible.
You handled it like a professional speaker. We've had senior awards night where we heard yesterday that over $300,000 in scholarships were awarded to our seniors. I think that speaks directly to the amount of community support that we have, and what a wonderful way to send our seniors into their post-secondary lives, whatever path that they are taking. It's so cool to see that there are scholarships for a range of supporting a range of aspirations moving forward. So it's not just four-year college or two-year college, but the range of things that students may be moving forward with in their adult lives. Some things that have been going on: end of year testing. We've had a lot of field trips. So kids have been out and about locally as well as leaving the community to experience some fun things together. We've had obviously the naming of the high school auditorium was a wonderful community event, and we've had all of the end of the year concerts and celebrations with only, what do we have now, 6 days left of school. Things are really winding down, so I noted a couple of early dismissals. We do have an early dismissal this Friday, as well as the last day of school will be a 1:30 dismissal. I'd also like to make sure that everybody's aware that registration is open, and so we are moving to all online registration, and so all the forms that parents are used to filling out or coming to that fee payment day filling out on paper, they have the ability to do that right in Infinite Campus now. So trying to streamline that, make that easier. If anybody has questions or concerns about that, they can call their school building, or they can come out here and Brenda can help with that as well. The challenges that we still face, there are some positions that we're still actively recruiting for. So I know that we've been talking about this month after month. I think it's important to keep the board up to date, to keep the public up to date, that our secondary science, secondary special ed continue to be really hard to fill positions. I know that we're in the process of interviewing and hopefully making offers soon. In 5th grade, we'd have 6th grade ELA, some additional middle school vocal. And so just keeping a watchful eye on that. Our principals are working really hard. Our new principals that have been hired at the high school are also getting involved, and we've been able to share past applicants for certain positions so that they could, follow up on people that maybe have expressed an interest in the past to try to recruit them. It's a great time to be joining the district with lots of fresh faces and positivity and things to look forward to. And then I also, I always include those goal areas, and so just to report on the month of April that I spent 18.7% of my time in buildings and 13.4% with community building. I've really appreciated that as a board goal this year, and I hope to take that with me, because that visibility and that community engagement and figuring out a way to manage that with the other responsibilities of the job has proven very beneficial to me this year, and I valued those connections that I've been able to make and kind of be an ambassador for the district as well. So I thought that was a really good goal, and that would be my 2 cents on that.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Stephanie? All right, seeing none. Moving on to FCSD School Board recognition.
All right, so Evan has something he's going to pass out, and as he passes that out, I'd like to just share that we're honored to take a moment to express our deepest gratitude to each and every one of our esteemed board members for their commitment and dedication to the Fairfield Community School District. May marks School Board Appreciation Month, a time for us to reflect on the indispensable role you play as our governing body. A governing body in education is entrusted with a wide array of responsibilities critical to the effective operation and success of a school district. These responsibilities encompass policymaking, oversight, strategic planning, community engagement, and many more. Throughout the past year, you've been tasked with navigating significant circumstances, from guiding our district through reductions in expenditures to the monumental responsibility of selecting a new superintendent. Through it all, your leadership and dedication to what is best for all students have shone brightly. As we take this opportunity to express our gratitude, please know that your service does not go unnoticed. Your commitment to serving the best interests of all students, regardless of background or circumstance, is a testament to your unwavering dedication to excellence in education. On behalf of the entire Fairfield Community School District, I extend our heartfelt thanks for your governance, advocacy, and unwavering support of our students, staff, and community. So thank you, board members.
Thank you, Dr. Mishler. All right, now we're moving into public participation. On behalf of fellow board members, at this time, I would like to invite any member of the audience that has filled out the form to step to the microphone with comments about items of interest or concern. Although we meet in public, we do not meet with public, and as such, the board cannot comment or answer questions. Please begin by stating your name in relationship to the school. It would be appreciated if you would limit your comments to 5 minutes. If 10 or more forms are submitted, we will reduce the time limit to 3 minutes per person. We ask that you remember that Iowa law prohibits us from discussing specific employees or their job performance. Do we have any forms today?
I forgot to ask the public. So is there any forms out there that I did not pick up? There are no forms.
All right. Moving into new business then. First item of new business, the 2025 FCSD academic calendar. Do I hear a motion to approve the 2024-2025 FCSD academic calendar?
So moved.
Second.
Deborah and Mark. And discussion.
I mean, I guess I'll just share that when we had that meeting, I thought it was really helpful to come together and connect with the team. We did come to that. So we didn't really break this down. I know we had that kind of, so I just wanted to share that we came to this compromise of adding additional hours, face-to-face hours back. And I think we kind of ran out of time after that to talk about additional things, but I think it would be really beneficial to talk about benefit, what are our main goals with this calendar, and how can we serve the students and the staff and make sure that it makes sense for families. And I think we did come to a good compromise here. I'm curious if Fridays are the best day. I know there was a lot of concern about that. One thing that came up that was a little I questioned was that Fridays, it sounds like the PD time would be limited because some staff do go home at 3:30 rather than 4 on Fridays. So it would limit what we can do on Fridays versus a Wednesday. Whether that's going to continue next year, I don't know. So I would love to come to a place where our calendar year after year is as consistent as it can be. Obviously there's changes with holidays. I don't know that this calendar is going to do that for us next year. So hopefully we could start the process and involve as many people as possible next year, so that we can get something that we can do consistently year after year.
I just want to thank the Megan, and I think you were involved, Megan was deeply, Mark,
Yes.
For getting involved, and Deb, getting involved in this process and getting us to this point. Because I know there was a lot of discussion to get us here, so I really do appreciate all your work.
Yeah, and it was great to talk to the staff, and I think there was concerns from their side about what our feelings were, and I think that face-to-face time was really beneficial for both sides. I guess if there were sides, I don't think there really were, but it helped.
Yeah, it was good to get a good understanding from both the committee and the board members. It was a good discussion, and that's where we landed.
Yeah.
Anything else? Seeing nothing. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries. Board Policy 701.05R1 Fiscal Management Financial Metrics. Do I hear a motion to approve a one-year waiver to Board Policy 701.05R1 for the 2024-2025 school year, allowing the Fairfield Community School District to go below the recommended ratios?
So moved.
Second.
Megan and Dave. And discussion. So this is basically we have a solvency ratio of 8%, and this is
Yep.
to go below that.
But the goal is to get back in the range within a year, correct?
We'll have to explore it every year. Obviously, there's a lot of new information that comes out at every budget time, but our goal is to get within an 8% minimum, preferably 15 to 20 in the future.
And our UAB will be up.
Our UAB is going to be within range.
Yes. So the only thing we're talking about is solvency.
Correct.
And that's gonna be extremely important, because people who purchase our bonds, that's what they look at, our cash position. So we have to be mindful of that, to keep our credit rating.
This is just for 1 year, so we'll review it again next year and
Yep.
set
So
expectations. And, yeah.
It's just proving an exception to the policy.
Yep.
obviously, with the reduction, we posted a budget, we approved a budget. What we approved and what we reduced will not get me within the line of the current policy. So.
Any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. 2024 bond referendum project. Do I hear a motion to approve FEH to create preliminary plans for a new school to be located at the Fairfield Middle School site?
So moved.
Second.
Deborah and Dave. And discussion. Woohoo. I'm personally very happy to see this moving forward and getting into the actual planning process. Actually start seeing some designs and everything. We've been talking about it for a long time. It's going to be 4 years since our last attempt at the Geo bond, so.
And I would just encourage, as part of communication, transparency, that this is the point where we now involve our principals, teachers, those kind of things, in designing, in working on the design of this building, because I'm not, that's where we involve other professionals at that point. So I would encourage that we involve them, even as we're designing the building.
Anybody else? Seeing no further discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Do I hear a motion to approve the AIA agreement with Carl A. Nelson to support the preliminary plans designed by FEH?
So moved.
Second.
Deborah and Christie. And discussion.
Can somebody put this in layman terms, what we're actually doing?
We need an engineer and the architects to work together to design a building, so we're approving an agreement to pay the engineers and architects to work together to design a building.
That's what I assumed. I wanted to hear
It's
that.
not
Make
as
sure
layman's
that's-
terms as I can make it, so.
Just abbreviated 28 pages.
Yes.
Can you sign the screen for me quick?
So how much will this cost, and what fund will it come out of then?
So all this comes out of our debt service fund, so it's Fund 40. Depending how we decide to move forward with financing the project, whether it be Geo bond, Save bond, it'll either be Fund 33 or general obligation bond, or a bit of both. It can also come out of PEPAL as well. So this is all debt service backed funding.
And how often do we hear back from them, and how much budget are we, is it, how collaborative is the process until the bond?
In my experience, we've gone anywhere from weekly meetings to monthly meetings to every bi-weekly. It just depends on what step. So the first step will be getting some surveyors out there, getting some utilities marked, starting to plot the land, then they'll report those results, then they'll start drawing, and then We have pretty pictures of this is what it looks like now, and this is here what we're planning on doing. Gradually increases. It's usually about once a month, and then you get into every week, then to multiple times a week to bond vote to post bond completion.
And I know FEH is chomping at the bit, so they're they're ready to meet with us and talk about it.
And both Nelson and FEH have been working together with us throughout this whole process anyway, right?
Correct.
Do we need a subcommittee to be more active in those meetings?
I think we discussed that at our last meeting, and I would agree that that sounds like a very good idea. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. All right. AEA resolution. Do I hear a motion to approve the AEA resolution to pass through 100% of our education and media services to GPAEA for the 2024-25 school year?
So moved.
Second.
Deborah and Mark. And discussion. And so we talked about this a little bit at our work session. Pretty much this would just be status quo. We're passing things through, and services that we've used in the past, we will continue to have them offered to us. Correct?
Yep, so the AEA also passed a resolution committing what we had talked about in the work session, that if for districts that pass through for the 24-25 school year, if your balance, if you spend all of the flow-through dollars and there are still services that you need, that you would continue to get those. If you don't pass through those funds, then our $130,000 as that ledger goes down, whenever that's done, then we would have to, pay for the continuing costs of the services should that happen. Anything that we don't spend will come back to us either way.
But they're gonna use credit memo invoicing.
Correct.
So we can keep track of that,
Every quarter.
yes. That's what,
Wait, sorry, go ahead.
that was important, I think.
Did they ever come back with a rate yet? Wasn't that the last thing that we were waiting on?
I mean, a rate for what?
Rate sheet.
They don't
schedule.
have, that's what they're in the process of building right now, so I do think that, takes some time. But obviously, as July 1 rolls around and we start accessing those services, that will be, I think you'd get that first statement at the end of September.
Sorry, I know last time we spoke, it was, they would give us all the services we wanted if we passed the flow-through money. Is that still what it is, even beyond a credit, or now we're just only in credit?
Yep, that's the safety of passing it through,
Okay.
of flowing it through. Should you
Yeah.
overspend your allotment, you still get those services at no additional cost.
And if we underspend it, we get it refunded.
Yeah.
Yep.
Plus we get preferential placement. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to me to make sense to go ahead and go through with it. I do have, a strong desire to see us look at what these real costs are in terms of what is Britannica World if we have to get a subscription, because that's what we use more than anything else in terms of, accessing. And it doesn't seem like we have any idea of what that would cost.
I wasn't able to get that quote. I know you emailed that, but I think that was on Friday.
But if we don't know, it's really hard to make, a financial decision of this kind without any kind of numbers, aside from the fact that, we're getting the benefit of credit back. But, if we're to save some of these dollars next year and, they can go to teachers in our district in some way so that we can be more competitive. It feels like this, we don't want to lose teachers to AEA jobs if we can help it. So it's something I think we need to look at really closely and not just kind of blindly accept.
And it will allow us to shop.
Sorry?
It will allow us to shop.
Yeah,
If we
and so
get-
whatever we need to do to put in place, like, sharpen the pencil and start looking at all of these things, we need to make sure that that's set up, I guess, at the beginning of the year as we go through this.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next up, public hearing. Motion to set a public hearing to amend the fiscal year 23-24 budget.
So moved.
Second.
Mark and Mark. And discussion.
So amending the budget, is there anything new here that we need to be concerned about, or?
I'll just keep it very high level and simple for you guys. We are not changing anything in the amount of expenditures going out of the district this year. That is staying the exact same. The difference is the budget that I came into had a lot of things allocated to other, and I personally chose difference in account to allocate it to instruction and support services and non-instructional support services. So the non-instructional things would be efficiency things that we've approved, the board agenda, that's sort of the frontline information. Remember, this budget is all funds. We chose to give some money back towards some of the instructional related services. We've approved some curriculum. We've done some retention bonuses. We've done some hardship bonuses for some support staff. We've done a lot of different things. So I chose to allocate the money back to instruction and support services instead of leaving it in other or discretionary. So I'm just making the budget aligned to make sure we don't go. Technically, I'm going over on instruction, but I'm not changing the overall expenditures of the district.
Thank you.
This should prevent an audit finding.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next up, motion to approve the resolution to set a public hearing for the sale of Lincoln Elementary to Huffman Estates LLC for $125,000.
So moved.
Second.
And discussion.
So I think you guys put out to bid. Did you receive multiple offers, or was this it, or?
We received 3 bids. We had a team of 6 go through a scoring process. This was high score and best bid. The committee recommended we bring it before the board to set the public hearing and move forward with the transaction.
Are we allowed to ask what they're planning to turn it into, or is that?
Sure. Who read it closer than? He wants to know what they're turning it into. It's kind of a community center.
Okay.
It's the easiest way to put it.
Sounds great.
As you know, they do like Santa Claus and Easter Bunny and things like that.
As I know, they do a lot of things.
All right, any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. All right, employee release of contract. Do I hear a motion to approve the resignation of an Fairfield Community School District teacher upon finding a suitable replacement in full accordance with handbook policy?
So moved.
Second.
And discussion.
So it's just simply they found another job after the contract had been signed, and they're just like out of the contract essentially.
Exactly that. Yep.
And then we're basically voting to let them out of it as long as we find a suitable replacement.
Correct. And there is also within the handbook policy, there is a fine associated with it as well for hiring costs, marketing costs.
So this is following our policy.
Correct. Following our handbook, it's not board policy, it's handbook.
Okay, handbook.
Sorry, is there a time frame on finding the replacement?
Ideally, we would find the replacement as quickly as possible, and so as soon. I mean, that would just depend on how quickly we can find
So it's open-ended.
that person.
As long as they still want to leave. Like, would they, I mean, essentially they have to start the job if there's no suitable replacement, but then could they leave partway through the year if that was still?
Potentially, I would think. I don't know.
So
if
it's-
that would
I
come
guess
before
I'm
the
saying
board again at
it's
that point.
open-ended.
The way that any type of school contract and this person is requesting to go to another educational institution, the those contracts usually run,
Okay.
like the start of school. So I don't know the reasonableness of starting the school year and then moving to another position upon finding a suitable replacement. So I would also just emphasize the work that our principals are doing to actively recruit licensed teachers in these hard to fill positions. It is a real challenge, especially in special education. I wouldn't even want to venture how many districts in the state have fully staffed special education departments. I think it would be a very small percentage. I certainly, when I see postings for any district, special ed is always there. I would say that the really positive thing in our district is that we are involved in the teacher pararegistered apprenticeship, that TPRA grant, where several of our associates are working towards teacher licensure right now with the intention of teaching in special ed. And so that's not going to be there for us next year, but that's coming. So that is encouraging that we have kind of grown our own right here in the district specific to special ed, amongst a few other positions too, but the majority of those are associates that are serving in special ed right now and hope to continue in teaching roles in special ed. So that'll be a really good, it has been a great partnership, but it will really help the district out and support our employees and that upward mobility through the system.
So, could you speak to, it says in the handbook, only licensed employees may be released at the discretion of the board only in unusual extreme circumstances. The board will have sole discretion to determine what constitutes unusual and extreme. Is this unusual and extreme?
This particular staff member signed the contract to serve for the district in high school special education, and then received an offer to work for the AEA, and weighed those options and felt like the better fit would be for that individual would be to work at the AEA. I'm not aware of extenuating circumstances that would classify this as I don't remember the word that you used.
Unusual and extreme.
Unusual and
Are you
extreme.
comfortable with denying?
Well, I just want, this does not seem to me to be unusual and extreme.
Mm-hmm.
If they, that is part of the contract process,
Yeah.
and I'm concerned about a precedent,
Yeah.
particularly in hard to fill jobs, where someone could come in and poach a special ed teacher or whatever to take, after they've signed a contract with us, and we're relying on them to fill this position. And even if there is a fine associated with this, paying the cost will be a condition of release from the contract. I'm concerned about, this doesn't seem to be unusual and extreme to me. That's my position, and particularly when we're at a war for talent in these special sections of our workforce. We signed a contract, we're relying on this employee, and now we're in a position to have to fill it, even if we find them. Someone could come in and say, yeah, well, we'll pay off Fairfield Community School District, that's fine for you if you come work for us. We'll buy you out of that contract. I think that language is in there for that contingency.
To protect
That's my
us.
concern, yes, that's my concern.
I hear your concern loud and clear. I think the biggest thing is it's still reliant on us finding a replacement. So, that individual will not be let out of the contract if we don't find a replacement. That's part of signing the contract. So I think that's really our safeguard. And I think in the past this has happened a few times. And I think in all the other situations, I think we have found a replacement. And if we didn't find a replacement, I'm pretty sure they didn't leave.
I remember one for sure.
Yeah. So I guess my opinion is I think it's the right thing to do. If it's a better fit for them and their family, we need to give them that option and treat them the right person. And again, if we don't find a replacement, then they can't go. It's just, that's all there is to it, So
It's again one of those really challenging kind of dichotomies, weighing the needs of individuals with the needs of the system, as well as all the students and the teachers who are here in the system. So in losing that person, there would be the teachers here that would have to pick up that slack, and students that would have fewer highly qualified licensed teachers to meet their needs. So again, back to the board appreciation and some of the challenging conversations that we've had tonight. There are a lot of situations where there's just not a perfect solution, and this really is an example of weighing those needs of individuals versus.
I think a key thing to
Versus
note
the
is,
districts.
I mean, if we don't try to find a suitable replacement, we don't let them out of the contract. I'm pretty sure they'll remember that in a year, when they prepare
Yeah.
to sign another contract.
Well, I mean-
I think it's just the right thing to do.
Yep.
At least try. So
And I would again just reiterate that Mallory has already been reaching out to every person that we've got in our system in Frontline that has ever applied to be a special education teacher. I'm not saying forever because I don't know how far back we can track those applicants, but I know that she's been reaching out there. And I would also say back to even on the superintendent update and the conversations that we've had ongoing through the spring, our staff are our best marketing tool. And so our teachers, our associates, our parents, our community, reaching out to qualified teachers that may be interested in working for us, really emphasizing what a great place Fairfield Schools is to work. That goes a long ways, farther than any posts we can put out on social media or a call from somebody that you don't know.
but again, special ed has been a very difficult spot to fill.
Incredibly difficult.
So you think that voting for this would assist in that, in recruiting people, or is that what you're saying? Is that
I think following our policy is best practice. So we have this in our handbook policy, and that if we were to set a precedent and let people who have signed the contract out without finding that suitable replacement, that hurts culture and morale, because what does that look like for the team members, the staff that are here
that stay?
this day? And we do want to do right by every person, and so support people in their professional and growth as well. But there's a balance. That's why we have the policy.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed?
No.
No.
Pending motion carries. All right. Do I hear a motion to approve the quote from Cantrell Truck and Trailer for a new service body on Transportation 2021 Chevy 2500 for $14,314 to be paid out of Save Pepple funds?
So moved.
Second.
Mark and Megan. And discussion.
So
We're fixing something up.
what's this for exactly?
Long story short, we have a transportation truck. They want to put a box on it and sell a van. So the 10 is we're going to take a van to auction. We're planning on getting about $12,000 out of it. Replace that van with a box on the truck. And we have some steel that we're also taking to auction. So in theory, it should all be a wash. So it's just reusing the vehicles to a different purpose.
So Josh has been pretty good about this. Whenever there's an item he wants to purchase, he tends to find things they can get rid of to offset a good chunk.
Yeah,
of
so there's a
price.
van that's going to be closely registered to out of service. They're not going to be able to pass their inspection. He knows for a fact. He talked to a guy that wants to offer him $12,000 for it. He's like, perfect. I'll turn this into the alternative route instead of buying a $30,000 van. This will get our job done. So it's going to be a timing on the auction. We'll have to approve those funds later on, but in theory, this should be a wash on costs.
And
I
this
just-
is just a maintenance truck.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, I wanna say publicly that I really appreciate all the work Josh does to, get those things to even out. And, if you wanna incur an expense, try to find a way to raise the money. That's awesome that he's doing that. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Board policies. Do I hear a motion to approve board policies at the first reading?
So moved.
Second.
Megan and Thornton. And discussion.
So we're going to replace our organizational chart in the handbook?
Correct. So rather than having it in board policy that maybe gets reviewed on that 5-year cycle, in the handbook, it's something that would be reviewed every year and just makes it more efficient to make changes as staffing changes and positions could change over time. And realigning those roles and responsibilities, which obviously this year is necessary following the reduction of several positions. So still there, just in a different place.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Do I hear a motion to approve board policies at the second reading?
So moved.
Second?
Porter and Megan. And discussion. Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. All right. Time for highlights. I'll start on my left today. Porter?
Great. There's so many things. I think I always have to say a couple. I think the first thing would be the sale of Lincoln School. You know, if it is in fact going to go towards a community center, I think that it'll be really neat to see whatever the Huffmans decide to do with this. For those of us that know them, they have been extremely giving of their facility where they put on Christmas things and Easter things and who knows what else. So I'm just really glad that's going to go to good community members that will probably do something neat with it. And then I'm also glad to see that we have our new superintendent here, so it's a new time period for the district as we start to transition. I'm glad he's here and excited for the next upcoming year. So,
Megan?
It's just been such a great week for highlights overall. So a lot of what you spoke about, you know, I was at a math bee and like 3 concerts and graduation. So it's just a fantastic week in the district. So highlights abound. It's always great to see you guys again.
Thornton?
I would say the highlights again were graduation. It's always cool to see what you're working towards, walk across the stage and see kids, you know, excited on their next path in life, wherever that may be. So that's cool to be a part of and see all the students and see them all excited.
Christy?
I would second what Mark said about the Huffman purchase. I have no doubt that whatever they do with it, it'll be amazing. So excited to see that. And also just seeing us get started on plans for a new middle school is really exciting. So very hopeful that we can get that bond passed and start moving forward with that.
Dave?
I echo everyone at graduation. It's always that was a very a highlight, even though I couldn't stay on the stage with you guys. It's a big highlight. As Mark said, it kind of brings it all together. What you're sitting around the table for, and so that was a big highlight. And also, I'm really pleased that we're finally coming together with at least our capital plan, a longer-term vision for the district, and something that we need to press forward on and keep clarifying that vision, what we need to look like at the end of it, period. So I'm glad we're finally getting to that point. Now it's obvious now we need to do it in the academic section and implementing the curriculum and all of that stuff. But at least in the capital side, we're beginning to have a vision for the school district. I'm really pleased about that.
Deb?
Highlight for me was this approving of the next step, the design of the new middle school. Just really excited about that.
I'm gonna be lame and just copy everybody. Graduation's awesome. It's, you know, one of the best things that we get to do up here is get up on that stage and see everyone graduate. And I also think it's funny because when we graduated, there was that song, that graduation song, "Always Wear Sunscreen" or whatever, and then Dave didn't wear sunscreen and had to leave the stage. I thought the irony was delicious there.
It was a real lame move.
It always
did stay in the tunnel.
It always seems like no matter what the weather is leading up to graduation, it's always 95 and sunny on graduation day.
It was a real lame move.
But yeah, it was great. I loved being up there and getting to hand the diplomas out to those kids. It was awesome. All right. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Deb and Christy. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We are adjourned.
Thanks, Doc.
Thank you.